So cool. Let's just jump right into it. The question is, what is the best set of ideas and values to make the world a better place? So, Helen, would you like to help build the case?
Yep, I will, of course, argue for secular liberal humanism as being the best set, and I will point out that there's plenty of evidence for that.
Cool, cool. We're using the website Kialo to help make the case here. So I've got a few broad answers, and I'd love to get your ratings for these. Like, so on a scale from 0 to 4, where 0 is false, 1 is improbable, 2 is plausible, 3 is probable, and 4 is true, where would you rate feminism as having the best set of ideas and values?
On implausible, that'll be 1.
Improbable?
Improbable, yeah.
Cool, cool.
There we go.
And humanism?
I think probable.
Probable. Progressivism?
Plausible.
Plausible. Conservatism?
Improbable.
Improbable.
Yeah, is there a very improbable?
There is a
Sorry.
false.
Yeah, false.
0.
False will do. Yeah, please.
False will do for okay. Liberalism.
Yep, that's the one at furthest one at that end. What's that one? Very probable or true? Yeah.
True. Cool. Religion.
False.
False. Okay. Critical social justice.
False. We need a minus figure there for that one.
All right, so I'll sort these claims. All right, the first segment of the interview I like to call Your Own Side of the Case. We focus on your highest rated answer, liberalism. So what would you say are like the top 2 to 3 reasons for this answer?
Well, liberalism, if we're looking at it as a philosophy and as an approach rather than as a political position, because I know that people watching from America could equate liberalism with leftism, and people watching from Australia can equate it with right wing. So, but I am talking about that real sort of philosophy of freedom and equal opportunities, universalism. Everybody should have the same rights, and individuality. Everybody is an individual, and the individual is the most important element of society. And so we're focusing very much on freedom and the sort of incremental improvement of society. So that I said plausible with progressivism, because liberalism is inherently progressive. It always tries to make society a little bit more liberal, a little bit more fair. It takes problems one at a time, and it wants to improve things. So it's not like conservatism, where it will just conserve traditions almost indiscriminately, and it's not like socialism, where it's a revolution or social justice. It's a progress. So it really is inherently progressive, and we have a great amount of evidence that this has worked over the modern period. We've got steadily more liberal as theocracy has retreated, and then feudalism first retreated, and then we've done away gradually with patriarchy and slavery and colonialism, and got increasingly liberal. In the 60s and 70s, we've had the civil rights movements, which were inherently liberal movements. They said to work to mainstream society, you have rights and we don't. We only want to have the same rights that you do. And that was a very liberal movement, and it convinced people. So I think the facts are on the side of liberalism.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so now let's repeat one more for your next highest reason. Why does humanism have the best set of ideas and values to make the world a better place?
Because it puts humans at the centre of everything. We're not relying on a god or anything larger than or outside of humans. So I think as a secular person that humans are precisely what we need to focus on, and it also puts us all on the same level. There are different groups of humans, but we all have the same ability for reason, for compassion, for all elements of human nature, and therefore it's important to think universally about humans as a single tribe rather than more narrowly as nationalism or identity groups.
Perfect. What is the top 2 to 3 reasons against conservatism?
I think conservatism has a tendency to try to hold us back. With social conservatism, we end up getting women and men sort of railroaded into specific gender roles. With economic conservatism, we end up not providing for the most vulnerable in society.
Gotcha. Okay, let's go with the next lowest.
That would be religion.
Okay.
Yeah, religion isn't quite as bad because people can practice their religion in a liberal and science-based way, but it still is necessarily held back because it has that supernatural element and it has that larger than humans appealing to written law element. And at its worst, it encourages homophobia, sexism, violence, persecution, censorship.
Gotcha. Now let's go with, let's see.
The critical social justice.
Yeah, go ahead and go with that.
Okay, so that isn't the one I've put as the biggest problem, but it is the one that I'm addressing because I think it has its aims right, but its methods wrong. So it has a denial of objective truth. It denies universality. It denies individuality. It is neurotic about language and power structures, and is really quite mythic and fundamentalist in its practice.
Cool. All right, so we did the top-rated reasons and the lowest-rated reasons, and why you think your good reasons are good and bad reasons are bad. Let's now try to steel man the answers you think are bad. What would you say conservatism thinks its best reasons are? What kind of case would it make for itself?
Underlying conservatism is the belief that things shouldn't be changed unless there is a very, very good reason. So the way things are working now, or have been working for our parents and our grandparents, have probably survived because they have been good. They shouldn't just be ripped out by the roots and thrown away in the name of progress, which isn't to say they never do progress. I mean, quite a lot now we've seen that gay and lesbian people are now able to be conservatives, which wouldn't have been the case even 20 years ago. So there is some progress there, but it's very, very slow with conservatism, and they act as the drag on society trying to progress.
Perfect. And what would you say religion has? Like, what is the positive reasons religion gives for itself?
I used to believe that nobody needed religion at all, that we could just reason people out of believing in it and they'd be absolutely fine. But I have come to believe that this isn't the case, that there are an awful lot of people who do need to have these big narratives that give them meaning and purpose. And if you sort of take those away from them, which of course we can't in a liberal society and wouldn't want to, but then they're going to find another one. This need for community, for moral good, for purpose, for meaning isn't going to go away. So religion, it can hold people together, it can keep them feeling comforted and secure. If I'm steel manning them, that the simplest argument is that this God actually exists and he is perfectly good, and so you should do what he says. That's the very clear case for religious people to give. And if they were right, if God did actually exist and he was going to punish or reward us all eternally, we probably should do what it wants. But there's no reason to think that's the case, so I can't really put myself in that position.
Okay. And how would you steel man critical social justice? What would they say are the best reasons?
Well, I think for the strongest argument for this, it would be that it's focusing very much on discourses and how we talk about things. And we have seen a big change over the last 50 years, particularly with how we talk about men and women, how we talk about LGBT people, racial issues. Things have changed. We've come out of the whole sort of Jim Crow thing for you. We've come out of the over here where we used to have signs when the first Jamaicans and everybody started coming over, and it was no dogs, no blacks, no Irish. We've moved on a long way since then. So the social justice people who are working on postmodern ideas would say that we've got these embedded prejudices from the past, and we've got rid of some of them. We've made legal changes, but we still need to really get at those attitudes that are underlying everything, become able to see them, and then uproot them. And we can't do that if we're wandering around saying, well, it's all about universality and individuality, because we need to pay some attention to social groups and how they relate to power.
Gotcha. And what are the main criticisms you've heard of humanism that people put forward?
That it's generally a bit naive, that it thinks that all humans are the same, and we can just say that, I don't see race, or I don't see sex even, which we don't tend to say, but yeah, but people understand humanism as believing that we've already achieved this. So it's an idea that we already are one big happy family, and it's a bit naive, and you only can think like that if you've been a relatively privileged person who hasn't had to think in any other way. Of course, religious people would make the criticism of humanism that it displaces God, and it's an arrogant attempt of man to put his own reason and his own logic above the written word of God.
Good stuff. And last one, let's go with liberalism. What are the main criticisms of liberalism that you've heard?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the Conservatives will criticise liberalism because they see it as always trying to progress, and Conservatives often see liberals as indiscriminately trying to progress and not having enough respect for institutions that have served us well. The social justice activists see liberalism as a kind of privileged blindness. They think liberal ideas are something you can have if you're a straight white man, and the world is already set up for you. It's too slow, and it's generally not very productive of social change from their perspective. And then you'd have the socialists and the Marxists who would criticise liberalism because of its support for capitalism and corporate culture, where it doesn't want a revolution. It wants to make things fairer for workers. It wants to make sure there are strong social programs, but it's not trying to overturn society as it is, defeat capitalism, and achieve what they would see as a real, genuine justice.